You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of getting caught up with bassist for the Neal Morse Band, Randy George. Randy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How's it going?
It's going super. Well, it's been almost 2 years since we had a chance to chat last, and you guys, the band and yourself, have been super busy doing some really cool stuff, so we want to jump kind of right in. The Great Adventure. Tell us a little bit about this album, this project.
Okay. Well, The Great Adventure, which is so funny that it has that title because it works on so many levels that most people don't even realize. Because it was a great adventure getting this thing done. And at the end of the Similitude run in 2017, Neal was pretty, hot to trot on, jumping right into another project. And Mike was, we're not even done with this one yet, And his schedule was filling up quite a bit for 2018. So, I don't know, Mike didn't really see it as something we needed to jump right into. But we did end up getting together in January before his year took shape. And that's when we started to write this album. And it was originally just going to be a single CD, and we just decided to try to make it as different from Similitude as possible, which is funny for a lot of reasons, and you'll probably figure that out in a bit. But we wrote a whole album, actually more than one album's worth of material that we thought, okay, we have a form here, it's different, but there was really no concept or lyric, and we didn't really have a clear picture of what it was going to be about. We just sort of decided to approach the songs in writing, 3 20-minute songs, maybe 1 10-minute song, something like that. It's like a sola scriptura kind of track listing. So we did this, and in the end, we sat with it for a couple months, and we just weren't feeling like it was quite there. And probably largely because we didn't know exactly what we were writing for. Mm-hmm. So Neal decided that he would go ahead and just reimagine the whole thing the way he was feeling it. And we thought, okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Let's see what he comes up with. And he basically took what we had done, of course, and used a lot of it to rebuild his idea, which was to do a follow-up to Similitude. Once he had that, it was obvious the band was going to have to get back together and sort it all out, because now we have 2 versions of the album. Now one's a double CD and a sequel that we would have done a little differently the first time had we decided that. We just sort of, for some reason, decided not to go that direction. So it was like, okay, so now we are going that direction. By then, it was August, and we got the drum tracks, and we got it sorted out and arranged and played drums. And then took it home and really, fleshed out the whole thing. So, it's funny how you do an album like that, and you don't really know what you have until the mixes start coming back. Mm-hmm. There's so much in it, and you just don't really, you can't keep up on all of it, without everybody building the project on their own, and most of us don't really spend the time to do that. One guy will do that, like Bill will do that, and then he'll send us stems. So, it's nice to hear what other people have done, and you're like, oh, that was cool. The guitar's really cool here, and, once everybody's tracks get in, then you sort of have to go back through and see if everything that you did originally still works. I was the second one to track after Mike, so I didn't fully know. All I had was the scratch tracks to go on.
Wow.
So, along the way you go back and you change things as needed once the other parts come together. And then there it is, the Great Adventure.
There you go.
Of course, that was the obvious title because of coming out of the lyric of the first album.
Gotcha. Well, and this is as I listen to it, it's been described as kind of a concept album where I capture kind of a story, kind of rock opera, classical twist, telling the story kind of thing behind it. So as I'm listening, I could almost envision it being a soundtrack for a visual event. So kind of what is the story behind the adventure? What is the kind of in a synopsis? Because again, it's a lot of music that's kind of followed.
The Similitude of a Dream was based on Pilgrim's Progress, the book by John Bunyan from like the 16th century. And the Great Adventure is just is a continuation of the story, basically. It's a story about a father who takes a journey, and then later on his son takes the same journey. But the son's much angrier, and he hates his father, and he sets out, and yada yada. It's bad, It's kind of so the album has a little darker tone to it. It reflects the rougher journey that the son went on in the book. So that's kind of the synopsis. You kind of have to get familiar with Pilgrim's Progress to really understand the story. Oddly enough, a story that in the very beginning I didn't think was going to translate well, because it never does. Mm-hmm. In the past, when anybody's ever tried to do anything with it, it just doesn't translate well somehow. But Neal really brought it alive in a way that you sort of get the gist of it. It's like Lord of the Rings. There's no way you're going to get through all of it, or even a good portion of it. You just have to take a section of it and focus on that. So in any case, yeah, I think it really translates well the way we did it. Mm-hmm. People who know the book well may not. They'll have to see it more as a broad generalization of some of the events rather than an exact interpretation. But yeah, that's basically the concept.
This project took a lot longer, I think, than what you guys usually do in an album recording, did it not? It was like almost like a year?
Well, the first session, oddly enough, was in August of 2017, before we went out on our summer tour. We thought, okay, let's get together 3 days early, because we're leaving out of Nashville anyway. So we'll come in, sit around for 3 days, and write some new music together. And it was basically the four of us without Mike. And so we came up with like 5 songs, which I think at least 3 of those stayed or part of the album. Just when we got together in January, we figured we'd get it arranged and we'd get drum tracks. But the whole time went by and we just never got close enough we scratched it out, but we didn't get final drum tracks. And Mike figured, okay, well, I'll have to come back and do drum tracks after we sort of flesh it out and figure out, where it's headed. That's where we it's just not right yet. So it took time. Yeah, it took time. And then it was mostly because of trying to make schedules line up to get together. That's what drove that. But yeah, it's different. We haven't really had that kind of an issue on an album before. We've always managed to get it done in one shot, getting together, arranging, and then getting drum tracks. So this is the first time we've ever actually had to go back and then sort between 2 different versions of the album to get a final one.
Well, and listening, there is a lot of I picked up on a lot of exquisite bass licks. And so in the mix, they've got it so we can hear a lot of what you're doing. And it colors the tunes immensely. So for the bass community, those are what do they call them at Disney? Easter eggs in the music that you go, wow, there was that run. Oh, wow, that was cool. This is great stuff embedded with all of the very intricate and elaborate music. Now, currently you guys are on tour. Is the tour kind of following The Great Adventure?
Well, the tour is The Great Adventure, yes.
Yeah.
Again, on so many levels. Let's see, we had 27 dates in the U.S., and we're only in Chicago at this point, so we've still got, another 40% left here. And yes, we're performing the entire Great Adventure album in 2 parts, disc 1, disc 2 with an intermission, and then an encore.
And both USA and Europe on this tour?
Yes, we have 19 shows in Europe, which will start a couple weeks after this one ends in March, on March 23rd in the UK.
Now, we always come back a little bit to the sound. Again, as I was listening to your bass playing, the gear that you're using for the tour, tell us a little bit about what gives it the sound.
Well, my sound, that sound everybody, thinks of on these albums is arrived at 3 components. The Spectre bass, which is a 99 NSJH5. And this is a 2-piece body, a 2-piece figured maple. It's not layered or anything. It's just 2 pieces put together. It's not a neck through. It's a bolt-on. It's got the EMG soap bar in the bridge position and a jazz in the neck position, and an Aguilar OBP1 preamp internally. So, that's the Spectre bass, and then I use DR high beams, 45 through 125 for strings. And the combination of those strings and the bass through the Sans amp, the version 1 Sans amp, it's the sound. There's just something about the three that gets that sound that nothing else will, because we've tried other things. We've run out of strings and had to settle for other brands of strings, and it's gone. Gotcha. It just didn't happen. The right strings make this bass, those strings in this bass, just, there's a synergy that happens there, and then the Sans amp is just the perfect processing for it. I can't explain it. All I know is that I've never been able to reproduce it, and I've spent a lot of money trying.
I hear you.
So I stick with it. So that's what I have going on. I'm only using the single pedal. Oddly enough, I used to bring the deluxe version so I could save presets. I suppose if I had thought about it, I could have still done that. But I've just got the individual pedal, and then I've got the version 2 pedal, which I use when I switch to a straight clean tone with no grit, just as clean as I can. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of places where I need that sound. Some on the Spectre against the drum loop and stuff. And then in the second set for the song Vanity Fair, I use my Wilkins 65 period correct P bass, the flat one strings. And so I like to have that real clean tone to give it that funky sound like you hear in a 70s pop song. So, and that's kind of why we did that, just because the song has that vibe, and I like to push the vibe. And I want to change from the Spectre from time to time. It's hard to get locked into one bass when you want to try different things, and then they never work. Mm-hmm. So, but that's okay. Chris Squire always had his Rickenbacker, that one, his original Rickenbacker, and none of the other basses he used sounded like it. And the sound that he got with it, there was no other way to get it. And that's what he was known for, and that's what his fans really liked. I did. I always aspired to that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's kind of like a key opening a lock. You find exactly right where the little teeth all align, and that's what makes the door open, So it's that combination.
Yeah. The amp doesn't even really matter. Whether the amp sounds good or not, it matters, if it's a good sound amp. Mm-hmm. My tone's already there before it hits the amp. The amp doesn't add anything to my tone at all. It'll just make it bigger and beefier. And I'm using an old vintage Silverface SVT on this tour with an 810 cabinet as an amp. But if the amp was on or off, in my ears, I can't tell. I wouldn't know the difference. Neal and Eric both stopped using guitar amps on this tour. They're both using fractals going direct. So technically, I could do that too. And technically I do, because although Rich puts a mic on the cabinet, that's the only part of the amp that ends up in the front of the house. And I think he tries to push mids with that, but we never even use it for live elements when we record tracks. That track never makes it into anything. It doesn't really add anything. I don't even know why we do it, but technically I could just completely lose the amp, which is a sad thing, because there was nothing like a big, huge amp sound in the day. Yeah. And if you have to fill a room, that's one way to do it. The PA isn't going to cut it for bass, and having a good amp it's a great thing, but it wouldn't change the sound of what I do.
I know you guys are so deep in the tour and with the album release, because the album just dropped in January. Is there any thought of upcoming projects or things that you might, or is it too early to think about anything else?
Well, I've been working on a project with my wife. Wow. It's a progressive band, it's a very different sound. It's a very different kind of thing. And hopefully we'll be seeing that sooner than later. We're about halfway through writing it, and we're still, developing more material and hoping to get that happening later in the year.
Very cool. And if people want to find out about that, where's the best place to look? Like with your project that you're working on, where should we look?
Well, obviously on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page. I've got an artist page, which oddly enough, I don't post as much on my artist page as I do on my personal page. I kind of use them both the same way. But I also have a forum that I started, which is a Facebook group, the Randy George Forum. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be really good places to keep up with me. And I do have a website, which is randygeorgemusic.net. Okay. And we'll try to keep that updated. But yes, these things will all appear in places like that. And of course, we have chosen a name for the band, although I'm not going to announce it right yet. So that'll ultimately get its own set of social networking pages and whatnot. And we'll certainly, but my Facebook is the best place to keep up with me. Just follow me or, join the forum or whatever.
For the Neal Morse, nealmorseband.com. If people want to know where the tour's going and...
Yeah, nealmorseband.com has all the tour dates and links to tickets. And radiantrecords.com is a good place for all things Neal Morse, and you can purchase meet and greet packages can be purchased there, as well as links to tickets for all the shows. And all the product we have available will be available on that site.
Well, Randy, we appreciate you taking time from busy touring schedule, and we know you're in the frigid Midwest there.
Yep.
So
Great Lakes.
At least you're nice and comfortably warm. Folks, make sure you check out Randy's project, upcoming band, mystery name. Keep an eye open for that. Keep an eye on his Facebook pages. More information forthcoming. Definitely check out Neal Morse Band, nealmorseband.com. All kinds of great stuff coming. Thanks for updating us, Randy. You've seen him here on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for bassing out with us here on bassmusicianmagazine.com.